Can you teach me how to kiss? That's what David said. No build-up. No joke. No smirk. Just those 6 words, dropped into the middle of my Friday night like a grenade. I was sitting cross-legged on my bed, halfway through a terrible Netflix show, when he knocked once and walked into my room like he owned the place. Which, honestly, he kind of did. David had been in and out of my house since we were 15. My mom liked him more than she liked me. He closed the door behind him. That should have been my first warning. Teach you what? I asked, even though I'd heard him perfectly. He shifted his weight, running a hand through his dark hair. He only did that when he was nervous. Most people thought David William was fearless. Star of the soccer team. Easy smile. Broad shoulders. The kind of guy who never stumbled over his words. But I knew him better than anyone. There's this girl, he said. I think she's expecting, you know. And I don't want to screw it up. My stomach dropped in a way I'd trained myself not to show. I'd been in love with him for 3 years. He didn't know that. Obviously. He'd been cool when I came out junior year. Didn't freak out. Didn't disappear. Just needed a week to process it, and then punched my shoulder and said, "You're still my idiot." But there was an unspoken boundary after that. A carefulness. We didn't wrestle anymore. He didn't fall asleep on my shoulder during movies. I pretended not to notice. And now he was standing in my bedroom asking me to teach him how to kiss another girl. You've had girlfriends, I said carefully. Plural. Yeah, but I've never really gone for it. He sat down on the edge of my bed, close enough that our knees almost touched. I get in my head. That part was true. When things mattered, David overthought everything. He looked at me then, really looked at me. You've kissed guys before, right? I hesitated just a second too long. Yeah. So you know what's good. What's bad? He shrugged, like this was completely logical. I trust you. I trust you. God, I hated how much that meant. You know this is kind of insane, I said. He laughed softly. It's only insane if you say no. That's manipulative. Is it working? I rolled my eyes, but my pulse was already racing. Okay, I sighed. Fine. Hypothetically. First rule, don't attack her face like you're starving. He grinned. I wasn't planning on it. Good. Because that's how you get blocked. He shifted closer without realizing it. Or maybe he did. Our knees brushed. It felt like static electricity up my spine. I continued. You don't just dive in. You look at her. Let it build a little. Like how long? Long enough that she knows what's about to happen. He swallowed. I saw his gaze flick down to my mouth. That was new. Like that, he asked quietly. My heart stuttered. Yeah, I managed. The room felt smaller suddenly. Warmer. And then, he pressed. Then you move closer. Slowly. Not like you're lunging. He shifted even closer, testing the distance between us. I could smell his cologne. Feel the heat coming off him. He wasn't joking anymore. You're not actually going to make me practice on a pillow, right? He murmured. I huffed a nervous laugh. Do you want to practice on a pillow? No. Silence stretched between us. I could end this. I could say, that's enough. You've got it. Instead, I said, okay. Just don't make it weird. I won't. He sounded sincere. Too sincere. Relax your shoulders, I said softly. You're tense. So are you. Shut up. He smiled, but his eyes stayed on mine. Focused. Searching. All right, he whispered. What now? Now, I said, my voice lower than I intended. You close the distance. He didn't hesitate. He stepped closer slowly. Calm and steady. Careful. Our foreheads almost touched. I could feel his breath. Is this right? He asked, barely audible. I should have stepped back. Instead, I whispered, yeah. And then David William kissed me. The first thing I noticed was how careful he was. David didn't crash into me or hesitate awkwardly. He just closed the space between us like he'd rehearsed it in his head 100 times. His lips touched mine softly. Too soft. More of a question than a kiss. My brain short-circuited. For a split second, I didn't move. I think my body forgot how to function. This was David. My best friend. The guy who'd sat next to me through every breakup, every exam, every family meltdown. And now his mouth was on mine. Relax, I whispered against his lips, because if I didn't turn this into a lesson, I was going to lose it. He pulled back an inch. His eyes were wide, searching mine for feedback. Well, he asked quietly. You're overthinking, I said, even though my heart was trying to punch through my ribs. Don't treat it like you're defusing a bomb. He let out a shaky breath. Okay. Again. I nodded before I could talk myself out of it. This time, when he leaned in, I didn't freeze. I met him halfway. Just enough pressure. Enough to make it feel real. His hand came up instinctively, hovering near my waist like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to touch me. "You can use your hands," I murmured. "Right." They settled on my hips. Warm. Solid. The contact made my stomach flip. He kissed me again, a little firmer this time. Still closed mouth. Still testing. "Better," I whispered. He shifted closer without thinking, his knees pressing against mine. I could feel the tension in him. Nervous, but something else too. Something heavier. "Do I?" he started, then stopped. "What?" "Do I?" Tilt my head. I couldn't help it. I smiled against his mouth. "Yeah, unless you want to bump noses." He huffed a quiet laugh, and then tried again. This time, he tilted slightly, deepening the kiss just enough to make my chest tighten. His thumb pressed unconsciously into my side. And that's when it changed. It stopped feeling like practice. His lips lingered, moved. Not clumsy, just slower. Curious. I responded before I could stop myself. That was my mistake. Because the second I kissed him back like I meant it, something shifted between us. His breathing changed. He kissed me again, longer this time. Not asking. My hands had somehow ended up on his chest. I could feel his heartbeat under my palm, racing just as fast as mine. "Wait," I whispered, pulling back slightly. He didn't move far. Our foreheads rested together. "Was that good?" he asked, voice rougher now. I swallowed. "Yeah." "Did it feel natural?" That question hit differently. "Yeah," I said again, softer. He didn't pull away. Instead, his eyes dropped to my lips again. "That didn't feel like practice," he admitted. My stomach twisted. "It's just muscle memory." He gave me a look. "Is it?" Silence settled between us, thick and charged. I should have ended it there. Instead, I said, "If you're going to use tongue, don't shove it in. Just ease into it." His jaw tightened slightly. "Show me." My breath caught. "You're really committing to this lesson, huh?" I said, "I trust you." "God." I nodded once, trying to steady myself. "Okay. Slow. And pay attention to how the other person responds." He leaned in again, and this time when our lips met, he hesitated just long enough for me to guide it. A gentle shift. A soft parting. The kiss deepened naturally. No rush. No force. Just warmth. His grip on my hips tightened slightly, like he was anchoring himself. And when he finally pulled back, his eyes looked different. Not confused. Not joking. Just intense. "Why does that feel so easy with you?" he asked quietly. I didn't have an answer that wouldn't ruin everything. So I lied. "Because I'm a good teacher." He stared at me for a long second. Then he whispered, "I don't think that's it." And the way he said it made my heart sink and soar at the same time. I should have stopped it right there. Made a joke. Told him the lesson was over. Pushed him off my bed and gone back to pretending everything between us was normal. Instead, neither of us moved. David was still close. Close enough that our legs were pressed together, his hands still resting on my hips like he'd forgotten they were there. "I don't think it's just the teaching," he said quietly. I forced a small laugh. "You're overanalyzing. That's your thing." He didn't laugh back. "That didn't feel like practice," he repeated. My chest tightened. "David." "What?" he asked, searching my face. "I'm not saying anything weird. I just mean, it felt different. Easy." I swallowed. "Maybe because we're comfortable with each other." "That's part of it," he said. The way he said it made my stomach drop. There was something new in his expression. Not confusion. Not curiosity. Awareness. I shifted slightly, trying to create some space between us, but his hands tightened automatically, keeping me where I was. Not aggressively. Just instinctively. "Sorry," he said quickly, loosening his grip. But he didn't move away. "Do you want to stop?" I asked. He hesitated. "No," he said. That answer hit harder than it should have. "Okay," I said slowly, trying to keep this grounded, normal. "Then next thing. Don't think about the mechanics so much. Focus on the other person. How? Pay attention to how they respond. If they move closer, you're good. If they pull away, you slow down." He nodded once. Then he leaned in again. This time, there was no hesitation. The kiss was soft at first, but more confident. Like he wasn't asking anymore. He was trying. Feeling it out instead of performing it. And when I didn't pull away, he shifted closer, his knees sliding between mine, his body angled toward me. My hand ended up on his shoulder without me thinking. That was the moment everything crossed a line. Because David didn't just kiss me back. He responded. His hand moved from my hip to my side, fingers spreading slightly against my shirt. Not grabbing, just holding. The kiss lingered, deepened, then slowed again, like he was testing how long we'd stay there. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were breathing a little heavier. That, he started, then stopped. What? I asked quietly. He looked at me for a long moment before answering. That didn't feel like something I should be practicing for someone else. My heart skipped. You're thinking too much again, I said, but my voice wasn't convincing. Am I? Neither of us moved. The room felt too quiet, too small. I thought this would feel awkward, he admitted. Or funny, or at least weird. It is weird, I said. He shook his head slightly. No, he said. It's not. That scared me more than anything. Because if this didn't feel weird to him, then what did it feel like? David, I said carefully, this is just a lesson. Don't read into it. He didn't answer right away. Instead, his eyes dropped to my mouth again. Then back to my eyes. You never told me, he said. Told you what? If you're seeing anyone. The question came out of nowhere. No, I said slowly. Why? He shrugged, but it didn't look casual. Just wondering. Another silence. Then, quieter. Have you ever liked someone you couldn't have? My chest tightened. Yeah, I said. Everyone has. He nodded like that meant something. Then he leaned back slightly, finally putting a little space between us. For a second, I thought the moment was over. Then he said, if I kissed Emma like that, do you think she'd like it? The question shouldn't have hurt, but it did. Yeah, I said, forcing my voice steady. She probably would. He watched my face carefully. Then why do you look like that? I blinked. Like what? Like you don't want me to. I didn't answer. Because for the first time all night, I wasn't sure I could lie to him anymore. I didn't answer him. Because the truth was written all over my face. David kept watching me, his expression shifting from curiosity to something more serious. Less joking. Less casual. You don't, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. My chest tightened. Don't what? Want me to kiss her like that? I looked away. This isn't about me. But you're making it about you. I'm literally helping you for someone else, I said, a little sharper than I meant to. Silence fell between us again. Then, softer, he asked, why did you say yes? That question caught me off guard. What? You could have said no. You could have told me to figure it out myself. But you didn't. His voice dropped. Why? Because I've been in love with you for 3 years. Because if I was going to get my heart broken anyway, I'd rather know what you felt like. Because I'm weak when it comes to you. Instead, I shrugged. You're my best friend. He didn't look convinced. Is that the only reason? I forced a smile. What else would it be? David held my gaze for a long second. Then he said something that knocked the air out of my lungs. Have you ever liked me? The room went completely still. My brain went blank. That's a weird question, I said carefully. Is it? He asked. No smile. No teasing. You just said you've liked someone you couldn't have. I stood up from the bed before I even realized I was moving. Okay, I think the lesson's over, I said, trying to sound normal. Light. Casual. Like my heart wasn't pounding out of control. Hey, he said, standing too. I grabbed my phone off the bed, even though I didn't need it. I just needed something to do with my hands. You're overthinking everything. I continued quickly. You got the basics. Eye contact. Go slow. Don't panic. You'll be fine. Did you ever like me? He asked again. I froze. When I turned around, he was closer than I expected. David, I said quietly, don't ask questions you don't actually want the answer to. I do want the answer. Why? Because I feel like I'm missing something. My throat went dry. Missing what? You, he said. That wasn't what I expected. I blinked. What? He ran a hand through his hair again, pacing once like he was trying to organize his thoughts. Ever since you came out, he said, things changed between us. I laughed nervously. Yeah, because I stopped tackling you on the couch. I'm serious. I stopped laughing. You pulled back, he continued. You stopped touching me. Stopped leaning on me. You got careful. That's called boundaries, I said quietly. Why? The word came out almost frustrated. Because I didn't want to make you uncomfortable. I was never uncomfortable. You didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. I needed time, he admitted. But not because I was freaked out about you. Then why? He hesitated. Then, quietly. Because I realized something. My heart skipped. What? That if you like guys, he swallowed, eyes on mine. There was a chance you might have liked me. I didn't breathe. And I didn't know what that meant, he finished. The room felt heavy. Charged. What did it mean? I asked carefully. He stepped closer. I didn't know if I wanted that to be true. My pulse was hammering now. And now, I whispered. David didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached out slowly, giving me time to pull back if I wanted to. I didn't. His hand rested lightly on my side, the same place it had been earlier. Only this time, it wasn't practice. I kissed you tonight, he said quietly, and I didn't think about Emma once. My breath caught. I kept thinking, he continued, voice low. Why does this feel right? He was close now, close enough that I could feel the warmth of him again. David, I started, because this was dangerous territory, because this could destroy everything. But he shook his head slightly. Tell me the truth, he said. Did you ever like me? I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in 3 years. I didn't lie. Yeah, I said softly. I did. His hand tightened just a little at my side. Then he asked the question that scared me more than anything else. Did. That one word felt heavier than everything else he'd said. He was still holding my side. Still close. Close enough that if I leaned forward an inch, our foreheads would touch again. I swallowed. I didn't say that. I replied quietly. You kind of did. I exhaled slowly. There was no running from it now. I've liked you for a long time, David. The words felt terrifying and relieving at the same time. He didn't pull away. Didn't look shocked. He just studied my face like he was trying to piece together years of small moments. For how long, he asked. Since sophomore year. His eyebrows lifted slightly. That long? Yeah. He let out a quiet breath through his nose. Not laughing. Not panicking. Just processing. And you never said anything. I gave him a small, sad smile. You were dating girls. And you're straight. He hesitated. That's the thing, he said slowly. I don't know if that's true. My heart stuttered. What? I've always dated girls, he clarified. That's what I thought I was supposed to do. It felt normal. Safe. He paused. But I've never felt this. His thumb shifted slightly against my side. Not intentional. Just there. Felt what? I whispered. Like I'm standing on the edge of something that could change everything. Silence wrapped around us. That scares you? I asked. Yeah, he admitted. But not as much as the idea of walking out of here and pretending tonight didn't happen. My chest tightened. David, this is a big thing to figure out because of one kiss. It wasn't just a kiss, he said immediately. He wasn't wrong. There had been something in it. Something neither of us could fake. He searched my face again. When I asked you to teach me, he continued, I didn't expect to feel anything. I thought it would be funny. Or awkward. But when I kissed you, he trailed off. When you kissed me, he corrected quietly. My breath caught. I felt calm, he said. Not nervous. Not in my head. Just there. That hit harder than anything else. You don't feel that with Emma? I asked, even though part of me didn't want to know. He shook his head slowly. I like her, he said. But I don't think about her the way I've been thinking about you tonight. The room felt impossibly small. David, I said carefully, this isn't something you rush. You can't just flip a switch because it feels intense. I'm not flipping a switch, he replied. I'm trying to understand why kissing you felt more natural than anything I've done before. He stepped even closer, closing the last inch of space between us. If I kiss you again, he said softly, and it still feels like that, what does that mean? My heart was pounding so hard I could barely think. It means, I said slowly, that we need to talk before we do anything reckless. He smiled faintly. That's such a you answer. Because I don't want to lose you, I admitted. That was the real fear. If this went wrong, I wouldn't just lose a crush. I'd lose my best friend. David's expression softened immediately. You won't, he said. You don't know that. I do. He lifted his other hand carefully, slowly, like he was asking permission without words. I didn't step back. His fingers brushed my jaw. Gentle. Can I? He asked. Now there was only sincerity. It wasn't practice. It was real. I nodded. This time when he kissed me, there was no hesitation at all. No lesson. No pretending it was for someone else. It was deeper. Slower. Like he was actually trying to feel everything instead of analyze it. His hand slid from my jaw to the back of my neck, pulling me closer. I responded without thinking, fingers gripping lightly at his shirt. And when we finally broke apart, both of us were breathing heavier. He didn't look confused. He looked certain. Well, I whispered. He rested his forehead against mine. I don't want to kiss Emma, he said quietly. My heart stopped. I want to figure this out. This, I repeated softly. You and me. The words hung there between us. Terrifying. Beautiful. Complicated. And for the first time in years. Possible. Possible. That word sat in my chest like something fragile. Like if I moved too fast, it would break. David didn't step away after saying it. He was still close, his forehead resting lightly against mine, his hand at the back of my neck like he wasn't ready to lose contact yet. You don't have to decide anything tonight, I said quietly. I'm not deciding, he replied. I'm realizing. I pulled back just enough to look at him. Realizing what? He hesitated, and for the first time since this started, I saw uncertainty again. Not fear, just honesty. That I've never actually asked myself what I feel, he said. I just followed what everyone expected. Girls. Dates. Prom. The whole script. Yeah. Silence settled between us. I like girls, he added. I'm not pretending I don't. I know. But tonight, he exhaled slowly. Tonight didn't feel like experimenting. It didn't feel like a joke. And it definitely didn't feel like practice. My chest tightened again. It felt like you, he finished. That hit harder than any confession. Because it wasn't about guys. It was about me. I sat back down on the edge of the bed, suddenly kneading the ground under me. David sat beside me without thinking, our shoulders brushing like they had 1,000 times before. Except now everything meant more. So what happens now? I asked. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, thinking. I don't want this to mess us up, he said first. Same. I don't want to rush into something and freak out later. Also same. He nodded once. But I also don't want to pretend nothing happened, he added. Because that would be lying. I glanced at him. To who? To myself. That was very David. Once he admitted something, he didn't run from it. Another quiet moment passed. Then he asked, almost casually, can we just see what this is? My heart skipped. What does that mean? It means we don't label anything yet. We don't tell anyone. We don't turn it into some huge thing. He looked at me. We just pay attention to how it feels. Together. That sounded dangerously reasonable. And terrifying. And Emma? I asked. He didn't even hesitate. I'm not going to lead her on. Relief hit me so fast I had to hide it. He noticed anyway. You really didn't want me to kiss her, he said softly. I gave him a look. You really needed that confirmed? He smiled a little. Then his expression turned thoughtful again. You know what the weird part is? What? I thought change would be difficult and overwhelming. But right now I feel calm. I swallowed. That's probably because we're not doing anything crazy. He turned toward me fully. Are we sure about that? Before I could answer, his hand found mine. Not sudden. Not dramatic. Just his fingers sliding between mine like it was the most natural thing in the world. We'd held hands before, pulling each other through crowds, helping each other up after games. But this was different. This time he didn't let go. I looked down at our hands, then back at him. You're really okay with this? I asked quietly. I'm more okay with this than I expected, he admitted. His thumb moved slightly against my hand. A small, absent gesture. Comfortable. Familiar. Dangerous. We sat like that for a minute. No rushing. No tension. Just quiet. Then David said something that made my heart flip again. You know what I realized tonight? What? I didn't come here because of Emma. I frowned. Then why did you come? He held my gaze. I wanted an excuse to see what it would feel like to kiss you. The room went very still. You're kidding, I said. He shook his head slowly. I think part of me has been wondering for a while, he admitted. I just didn't want to say it out loud. My pulse was back in my throat now. How long is a while? I asked. He thought about it. Since you stopped touching me, he said. That hit harder than anything else. Because he'd noticed. All those small things I'd pulled back from. All the distance I thought I was hiding. I thought you needed space, I said quietly. I thought you didn't want me anymore. I stared at him. I've always wanted you. I admitted before I could stop myself. The words hung there. Heavy. Honest. David didn't look surprised. He just squeezed my hand once. Then, softer than anything he'd said all night. Good. And the way he said it made me realize something that scared me more than the kisses. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. This was the beginning of something neither of us knew how to stop. The next few days felt normal, and completely different at the same time. David still came over after practice. We still ordered food, still argued about movies, still sat on opposite ends of the couch like we always had. Except now, there was this quiet awareness between us. Little things felt louder. The way his knee brushed mine and didn't move away. The way his eyes lingered a second too long when he thought I wasn't looking. The way neither of us brought up Emma again. We hadn't kissed since that night. And I think both of us were waiting to see who would cross that line first. It happened on Tuesday. We were in my room again, books open, pretending to study. David had his hoodie sleeves pushed up, pencil tapping against his notebook while he stared at the same math problem for 5 minutes. "You're not even reading," I said. "I am. You've been on question 3 since I made ramen." He sighed, dropping the pencil. "I hate this class." "Then maybe do the work. Maybe help me." I moved closer, leaning over his notebook to explain it. Our shoulders pressed together, familiar and easy. Except this time, neither of us pulled away when we were done. He didn't go back to writing. He was looking at me. That look again. Quiet. Focused. "You're doing that thing," I said. "What thing?" "The staring." He didn't deny it. "I've been thinking," he said. My stomach tightened. "That usually leads to trouble." "Probably." Silence stretched. Then he asked, carefully, "Do you still like me?" The question felt heavier than it should have. I met his eyes. "Yeah." He nodded once, like he needed to hear that. "Good," he said quietly. Before I could ask why, his hand moved, slow, giving me time to react, and rested lightly over mine on the desk. Not grabbing. Just there. Warm. My heart started racing immediately. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, even though my voice came out softer than normal. Another pause. Then he turned his chair toward me. "Can I try something?" he asked. That question again. Always asking. Always giving me a way out. I nodded. He leaned in slowly, the same careful way he had the first night. No rush. No sudden movement. This kiss wasn't nervous. It wasn't practice. It was familiar. Soft at first, then a little firmer when I didn't pull away. My hand tightened slightly around his without thinking. He responded immediately, shifting closer, his free hand coming up to rest lightly against my jaw. When we pulled back, neither of us moved far. "So that still feels right," he said quietly. I let out a shaky breath. "Yeah." He studied my face. "You know what's weird?" he said. "What?" "I don't feel confused anymore." That surprised me. "You don't?" He shook his head slowly. "I thought this would mess with my head. But it doesn't." His thumb brushed lightly along my jaw. "When I'm with you, it just feels calm." That word again. Calm. Not intense. Not chaotic. Just right. "So what does that mean?" I asked. He hesitated for the first time. Then, carefully, "I think it means I don't want to figure this out alone anymore." My chest tightened. "You're not alone." "I know," he said. "But I mean, I don't want this to be some secret experiment either." I blinked. "What are you saying?" He took a breath. "I think I want to try this. For real." The words hit like a quiet shock. "You and me?" I asked. "Yeah. And if it doesn't work?" His expression softened immediately. "Then we deal with it. Together. Like everything else." That was the thing about David. He never promised perfect. He just promised he wouldn't run. My throat tightened a little. "Okay," I said. He smiled then. Not the confident, charming smile everyone else knew. The real one. Relieved. Then he leaned forward again, pressing a quick, warm kiss to my lips. Not a lesson. Not a test. Just something simple. Something that felt like the beginning. And for the first time since all of this started, I realized something. I wasn't scared anymore. Because whatever this was turning into, it already felt like us. The first time we went out in public after that, nothing dramatic happened. And somehow, that made it more real. David still walked next to me like he always did. Still bumped his shoulder into mine when he laughed. Still complained about practice and stole fries off my plate. But this time, when our hands brushed under the table at the diner, he didn't move away. He looked at me instead. And I didn't move either. We hadn't told anyone yet. Not because we were ashamed, just because this felt too new, too fragile. Like if we said it out loud too soon, it might crack under the pressure. We were taking it slow. Actual slow. No rushing. No pretending we had everything figured out. Just checking in. "How does this feel?" he'd ask sometimes, usually late at night when things got quiet. "Still good," I'd say. And it was. About a week after the lesson, he showed up at my house again, nervous in a way I hadn't seen since the first night. "What?" I asked, letting him into my room. I told Emma I didn't feel a connection. My stomach tightened. And she said okay. That's it. That's it." He shrugged. I didn't lie. I just didn't give details. Relief and guilt mixed in my chest. "You didn't have to do that because of me," I said quietly. "I didn't," he replied immediately. "I did it because I didn't want to keep pretending." He stepped closer. "I don't want to pretend with you." God, there was still fear there. Of course there was. We both knew what this meant. People would talk. Some would question him. Some would question us. But when he looked at me like that, steady, sure, I realized something. He wasn't experimenting. He wasn't confused. He was choosing. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said honestly. Are you? He nodded once. Yeah. Then, softer. I think I've liked you longer than I realized. That made my heart do something stupid and hopeful. When? I asked. He gave a small smile. When you stopped sitting so close to me. When you pulled away. He exhaled. I missed it more than I should have. I shook my head slightly. I thought I was protecting both of us. From what? From this. He reached for my hand without hesitation now. And what if this isn't something we needed protection from? He asked. I didn't have an answer. Because standing there, fingers laced with his, I didn't feel like I was falling off a cliff. I felt steady, grounded. He leaned in and kissed me. Slow, familiar, warm. Not searching, not testing. Certain. When he pulled back, he rested his forehead against mine again, like that had become our thing. You're still my idiot, he murmured. I laughed quietly. And you're still dramatic. Yeah, he said. But now I get to kiss you. I rolled my eyes, but my smile wouldn't fade. Guess the lesson worked, I teased. He smirked slightly. Yeah, he said. Best teacher I ever had. And for once, I didn't correct him. Because this was never really about teaching him how to kiss. It was about finally admitting what had been there all along. My best friend had asked me to teach him how to kiss. And somehow, we ended up learning something a lot bigger than that.